Welcome back, everyone, to episode 5 of the Minot Business Podcast presented by Bennett Creative Media. We're back Wednesday morning with another wonderful guest. This week's guest, Nick Hulberg. Nick, how's it going, man?
Wonderful, man. I appreciate you having me. I'm just so proud of everything that you've done here. And yeah, I can't wait for this conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
I appreciate it. And I really appreciate you coming here into my humble abode and, coming on the podcast. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to get cracking at it. Just to give the people a little bit, obviously I know you super well. I know what you do, all your endeavors. Well, not maybe all of them, but give a quick introduction, an elevator pitch. What do you do for the people that don't know who Nick Hulberg is?
Nick Hulberg is a guy that has a giant passion for sports, whether it's high school hockey to dirt track racing across the board. It's something that I've always been in love with, is competition and sports. And I found a path in life where basically I've found a way to make a living off of living out that passion of promoting local athletes, whether it's, like I said, high school athletics or dirt track racing or any other sports, on a broadcast media platform called Prostyle Production or PSP Network. I've been at that for many years. My whole professional career has been announcing sports, and yeah, I'm pretty fortunate to be able to do that every single day, man. Yeah.
So you have Prostyle Production, and obviously you have announced the hockey games when I used to play hockey here in Minot, and you even did the Vistas there for a season. Are you still doing the Vistas, or was it just kind of one season thing?
Yeah.
Test it out?
Yeah. That was a one season, 2 seasons, maybe 3 total kind of.
Okay.
We really dove headfirst into it right away, and then found that it just wasn't as profitable. It was kind of a money loser for us, actually. So we kind of had to step back what we were doing with summer baseball, but we'll still get some Vistas tournaments in and things like that here and there. But yeah, we certainly enjoyed your time watching you with some highlights, man.
Yeah. I mean, I lucked out for sure. The year I, played baseball, I think my senior year was the first year we went down there, and it was always fun having you announce, because usually baseball didn't have announcers. But Prostyle Productions, let's get into that a little bit. Pretty much you guys just stream all high school athletics. Am I missing something there, or is that kind of what you do? And
yeah.
I know you got announcers for basketball. You got some for football. You got some for hockey. How does that work? Give me a little bit of a in-depth look into that.
Yeah. The nuts and bolts of it are that we started Prostyle Production back in 2014 after me being involved in broadcasting in some capacity, whether it was full-time working at Beck Sports as a senior broadcast manager, or the voice of the Bismarck Bobcats, where I got my career started.
Okay.
Or working out.
I don't even know if I knew that.
You didn't know that? Yeah.
No. Were you were in Bismarck?
I was with the Bismarck Bobcats. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's where my career started. And my dream job was to be a pro hockey play-by-play guy. And I got a gig out in Elmira, New York, working for the Ottawa Senators farm team, the Elmira Jackals, AA hockey affiliate.
The
Jackals. Yeah, it was wild. That's a whole chapter. I should write a book about that. But I came back to North Dakota, worked at Beck Sports, and chased a little oil money after that, after Beck Sports. And all the while still announced Minot High hockey and still had connections with Toros hockey and Beavers hockey. Again, my passion. And then in 2014, I decided there's no reason that we can't, chase this thing and actually make a business out of it.
Okay.
And that's what.
So when you came back, sorry to cut you off, but so you were announcing while working in the oil field.
Yeah. So after, that the Bobcats deal was a full on, that was my first ever gig. I was in the office every single day. My brother was actually the president and GM of that hockey team.
Okay.
And he brought me in and he's like, hey, basically we'll pay you peanuts to come down here. You can get your feet wet.
You're the announcer now.
Yeah. You're going to do
play-by-play guy.
Play-by-play on digital radio at the time. And then you'll do PA work for us also.
Yeah.
And then we're going to need you to do stuff like, put your fat ass in the mascot's outfit and walk in the parade. I'll never forget. There was one time I was walking in the Mandan parade, and some little kid was pretty upset. Scratch is a lot bigger than he used to be, and all this stuff. The mascot. I'm just like, what am I doing with my life? But yeah, I grinded that way, and was with Bismarck, and then went out to New York, and a little bit more of a focus solely on the broadcast world and the media relations world. All the while I did sales for both of those organizations, by the way. And then, after I came back home and worked for Beck Sports, that was a little bit of sales, but that was straight up just, broadcast was our focus. I mean, we did 200 games a year with Beck in each market. And then, the oil field, chasing the oil field stuff a little bit. I still had my connections with Minot High hockey, Beavers hockey, and Toros hockey. So at that time, that was just a side deal. You know what I mean? Where most fans just go to the game and watch Minot High play. I would just show up with a bag full of gear and call the game on the radio. You know what I mean? So that's how that all kind of came about, to answer that question.
Okay, sweet. So then you, in 2014, you decided, there's something here. What was there any turning point or anything you thought while going and you're deciding, okay, I'm going to start PSP? Was there anything that clicked in your head that thinks I can make this, a profitable business? Or where was your head at in 2014?
You want the no holds barred? I'll give you all of it if you want it.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's
it's all good.
You can spit it out there for sure.
Yeah, I'll say it what it is, and I think it's a valuable lesson in life too. That really, I'm grateful for this. You know what I mean? At the same time, it was a really hard time in my life. My daughter's mom and I ended up breaking up. I lost my job in the oil field. And I'm a mess at this point. I'm like the drummer of Motley Crue, having fun, going out every night, and just, midlife crisis at 28. And a good friend of mine, Tony Mueller, who owns Sports on Tap and Planet Pizza. And I sit down one night and we're sitting out at my farm, and, I'm a pretty glasses half full all the time kind of guy. You know what I mean? And now I'm kind of starting to get where I'm, it's not that full anymore, and he looks at me one night and he's just like, man, you got to get back to what you're good at and what you love. You know what I mean? Like, what can you do here? Instead of moping about this, let's get on a different path. And that night it was born watching Family Guy and sitting there drinking a Rolling Rock and hanging out. And, the brain started turning that night where it was like, you know what, you're right. I think that we can probably go down this path and make it something great. And the next day, straight business, man. The business model started being formed, and the ideas started coming, and
you just got after it.
Off we went. Yeah, for sure.
So was Tony a partner with you, or is he kind of just your Kickstarter to, hey, get your ass in gear and get after it?
He was just a good friend. Yeah, 100%. And having some good friends along the way, to be there to kind of guide, I think, is another thing, in this business podcast, where if you surround yourself with people that are like-minded and have some ambition in life, you're going to be forced to be ambitious. You know what I mean? Sitting at the China Star one day, having our weekly lunch with Andrew Goodmanson from 701 Realty and Tony that owns Sports on Tap. And we're sitting there and these guys are talking about what they've got going in business, and I've been in business my whole life doing sales and stuff. I mean, I've always found a way to be successful with that stuff, but we're sitting there one day and these guys are telling us about, the conversation is about business and how it's growing. And I'm like, well, yeah, I just built a feature film on alien abduction, and these guys are just like, wow, So anyway, you fast forward the story to now where it's fun to have those conversations with them and thank those guys for their support along the way of doing that stuff. But yeah, basically getting to a point where we reach, okay, we're at an impasse here. It's either a left or right turn. We're going to have to do something.
Robert Frost, two woods diverged in something like that. Isn't there?
That's exactly
in two paths.
That's exactly right. I chose the right path, man, because life is so good now with what we're doing, and it took time to get to where we're going, and we're certainly not done with where we want to go, or we're not as big as we want to be, and stuff like that. But we're moving in that direction now where it's profitable and things are going well. But there was some lumps in that way from 2014 until all the way till now. Where I still went back and I gave it a shot right away. And the webcast stuff just wasn't quite where it is now.
Okay. So it wasn't quite to where you needed to be or where you wanted it to be.
Right. And the other thing that we did is we had a model that was pretty interesting where we charged pay-per-view for people to watch these events.
Okay. Yep.
We redesigned what we're doing for two reasons. The first and main reason, number one, was that, look, we reshaped our mission on everything that we're doing. And that mission was reshaped back in 2019, 5 years into this.
Okay.
Where we had success with what we were doing. People loved it. They loved to be able to watch these games and all that sort of stuff. But charging them $15 a night to watch kind of was a double-edged sword there, in a sense that, hey, I'm here to promote these kids and your grandson, but I also need you to pay me to do it.
Otherwise I can't do it. Well, but that makes sense. Like, you can't do everything for free. And, you just got to find which business model works for that.
And that's right. So we reshaped the model and just kind of went to the drawing board and took the dry erase marker out and went from scratch.
Okay.
And reshaped it where our mission statement now, and which I'm very proud of is that we're here to promote local athletes. Bottom line. I mean, top to bottom. And we do that with a model where I go to local businesses. I'm now a marketing platform for them to be able to market their business and to be able to say, hey, dollars in advertising can come to PSP Network instead of going into this other pot, wherever that may be.
Correct.
And now we can have you on board where, hey, it's a feel good community thing first and foremost.
And it's good to get your name out there.
It's great to get your name out there.
And especially watching, I watch this, my sister plays for Minot High basketball. So I watch all of their games and everything, and just having a platform where, I mean, you can get the ones where you have to pay monthly or whatever, but like just having a platform where you can watch it for free. And I really think honestly that as a businessman myself, going the route of getting advertising dollars instead of having the customers pay, like it just makes it look so much better. You know what I mean? They're like, oh my gosh, I can watch this for free on PSP. No way.
Well, and it feels so much better too, because it doesn't feel, for me, I'm still getting paid for this work.
Yeah.
Keep in mind. I mean, this is my business. You know what I mean? But the work on the back end and creating those partnerships with, Premier Chiropractic, for example, Becky and Kirk, who've been there from day one with me. Becky's one of my best friends. Well, having the opportunity to go to her and for her to help us out at the start of this, and now to get to the point where every time I see her, she's got a big smile on her face saying, you guys are killing it, man. We have a referral list in our office, and PSP shows up on that thing all the time, where now there is some major return on people's investment. And there is that opportunity for me in these business meetings and setting up these partnerships where, look, not only are you helping a great cause, we're promoting high school athletics right in town here or in Bismarck. We'll get into that in a second. We expanded, but you're also going to get return on your investment in doing this. I mean, we've created something that, in my mind, as a marketing guy and as a salesperson, as somebody that, is embedded in this community very deep, where, hey, this is fantastic. We've got something that's pretty special compared to other things. And yeah, we're really proud of that. I think that there's a lot of hard work in there, and there's a lot of times where, in business where you're going like, what am I doing? Yeah. What are we doing? And one of the best things, I have to tell you this real quick. One of the best things that I was ever told in starting this business and going through some of those times where it's like, look, pay-per-view numbers really aren't, they're not cracking the case here for us. You know what I mean? Because you can really pay $15 to watch a high school hockey game. Yeah.
Well, and especially if you're paying to watch every single one, like if it's a parent or something, then you're in for,
yeah, that's a long haul.
Bucks, you know what I mean?
That's a long haul for somebody that just wants to watch the game. Now, where we broadcast 200 games a year in every market that we're in, by every, I mean Minot and Bismarck, but where you can watch all those games, and the advertisers are what are paying us to be able to do that.
Correct.
I had a conversation one time with Fred Mueller from Planet Pizza and Tony's dad. I mean, they're best friends of mine, right?
Yep.
And one of the best things that Fred ever told me, and, be careful how I quote it here, but I'll just say what it was. I said, Fred, what's the biggest thing in business that you would give me as advice moving forward and doing what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he got real stern, and he leaned back and he said, you just have to have the balls to do it.
Oh yeah.
And I just looked at him like, geez, man, like me being the hockey dirt track racing guy, you know what I mean? Like, boy, did that strike a chord with me, where it's just like that. I mean, that's big brother, or, a second dad just saying,
just got to go for it.
You got to go, man. Like just do it. And, I'm not saying that we're world beaters or anything like that right now, but where we're going is a good spot, I think. And
yeah, which is good because, and that's one thing about business. There's so much of it where you're not going to be successful every single thing you do. You just have to go out there and you have to keep trying, in my case, keep making more videos. In your case, keep streaming more games. And eventually you look at it 2-3 years down the road and it's like, holy shit, look where we've got.
Yes.
But I want to go back to the beginning a little bit to start about a little bit more business topics. So you touched on being out to eat with Goody and Mueller. They always say you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with or whatever. So I assume that business wherewithal resonated a little bit, and having Becky and Kirk there in the beginning, how important is it to have people in the beginning that believe in you? For people that are starting businesses now or just starting businesses, how important is that? For me, it is the most important thing. I'm a person where I'm at, I'll be 37 this summer, and I'm, my emotions are worn on my sleeve. I'm black. Anyone that knows me well knows that. Oh, for sure.
That this is just, he's just going to say it how it is. And,
Yeah.
and this is who he is. He's an emotional person to begin with, where, this is either you're doing good or you're not kind of a thing in my mind, like draw that line and where do you gauge that success? So for me, just having that support staff and support community around me of people that, were there to continue the encouragement, I think was big across the board. And it still is big. It's still huge where, the little compliment of, hey, great job, or this or that really helps something there.
And it really does keep you going, honestly.
To want you to continue to grow it. But I think more than anything on that topic, I think it's being able to have that group of people that you can confide in and trust, and to be able to go to those people in certain situations in business and be able to say to them, what would you do here? Yeah. Or how do you handle this? Or what do you think of this idea?
And what would Brian Boitano do?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And to be able to have them be able to look at you square in the eyes and just say, hey man,
just have a team to give you feedback, honestly. Cause there's so much in business when you start, and I'm sure you felt this too. It's like, you don't really know what to do. And you just have to, you can try one thing, and if it fails, try the other thing, but it helps so much having that group to expedite the process.
Without a doubt. We're part of what we did this last year is we expanded to Bismarck. We saw how well this works in Minot. We saw the hunger for watching these games from people and how much people liked it. Bismarck, Mandan is crazy when it comes to high school. And they got rivalries
there too. We don't have it yet. We'll get it with the new high school, but
they got big rivalries down there.
Yeah.
And there's three gentlemen that were on the radio for the last 25 years that are, the guys down there. Scott Woodmansey, Chuck Claremont, and Todd Domries. And I've gotten to know Woody throughout the years. He used to be the voice of the Harlem Globetrotters.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He actually, I don't know if he's never said it, but I had an audition with the Globetrotters one time when I was like 23.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure it's because of Woody. I don't know, like here's another North Dakota kid that announces sports.
Just slid that paper and there's like, try this guy.
Try this guy. It's pretty cool or whatever. But fast forward the story to current time. And, I reach out to Woody and say, hey, would you guys ever be willing to be a part of PSP Network and view conversations? And we bring these guys in, and they're so great. We're doing the same thing in Bismarck now that we're doing in Minot, and they're so talented and they're so great. And the best asset of all of that, though, is not only how skilled they are on the microphone, but just the business sense. And
are they smart business wise?
Yeah, they're smart business guys. Chuck Claremont is a guy that is at the top of the North Dakota Safety Council. That's what his role is. He's the CFO of the North Dakota Safety Council. Yeah. You've got TD, who's just he's Excel spreadsheets and stuff. He's just a wizard with that stuff. Yeah.
Paper guy.
100%. And then you got Woody, who's just a great, sales guy that, has been in sports marketing with the Wizards and, in Bismarck for many years. So having those guys on board, in my circle on a daily basis of operations in the sports season. So you've got a bunch of broadcasters and business brains here. And then at the same time with Scotty Cattell and Minot, you've got this guy that was in radio and in sales for 45 years over here, where it's like, Scott, what would you do with this? Yeah. And we start talking, and 10 minutes into it, it's like, God, we just cracked it. That's what we're going to do.
And that's where it's nice to have business-minded people around you. I can't stress that enough. And even when you're starting your own business, I'm sure you felt this yourself, but just having those people around you, because you can talk to your friends and you can talk to other people that just have regular jobs or whatever, but having people that have actually went through it is such a game changer.
It is a complete game changer. There's a lot of fear there when you start this. Keep in mind, like for me, when I started Prostyle Production.
Yeah. What were some of your biggest things, your things you were scared of in the beginning?
I think the biggest failure would be number one, you know what I mean? Where you sit and go if this thing falls flat, I'm going to look like a moron. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then through those conversations with guys like Tony and Goody and some of my best buddies, where, dude, you're not going to fail at this. Yeah. You don't let it fail.
Might be a minor failure, but if you keep going, you can't fail.
Yeah. It's like the stock exchange, man. You're going to have some ups and downs here. You know what I mean? Yeah. But don't do anything totally dumb and you should be just fine. Don't
sell at the bottom. When your business is at the bottom, you don't sell there.
That's exactly right. So for me, I don't know. I think that just overcoming that hump, first of all. Secondly, I think one of the other big challenges was deciding to get really deep into it. I think was deciding as reshaping it into this marketing platform one of the biggest things is where can we set this up to make sure that the return on investment is there, but we're able to still as a business get maximum profits to make this thing run. And where does that conversation lead when I'm meeting face to face with the marketing directors from all these places? How do we go about that to make sure that this is a handshake at the end and a signed contract, and at the end of it, you're winning and so am I, and making sure that we're completely honest with how our expectations are going to be set up, what the reality is of these expectations. I think that's one of the biggest things. Is I'm just such an honest person when it comes to sales. Like I don't know if you know this, but there's the amount of people that have reached out and said, "Hey, Prostyle Production, you guys can make videos, right?" Yeah. And I go, "Yeah, I certainly can. What do you want it to be like?" You know? And they'll say, "Well, we're going to throw some money at it. We'd like it to be a good." I'm just like, here's Easton Bennett's phone number. Like, you don't even want
and
me.
That's I've always known you as, so I always say you could talk yourself out of a wet paper bag if you needed to. But what would be so you talk to all these marketing directors and, are talking to them about their return on investment and what they can do for advertising, all this stuff. Do you have any tips or any thought processes that you go through when you're going to meet with these people? Because that's one thing when I started is going into these meetings was almost nerve-wracking. It was a little bit scary. You don't know how to talk to these people. Is there anything that you can share that would lessen that for people that are just getting started or people that, aren't sure how to go about talking to these marketing directors?
Hey, do your homework. Number one, like first and foremost, like you gotta know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. The second thing,
as far as your own business and theirs,
both. Yeah. Okay. And that's a tricky one here too, because there's a lot of times I did ad sales at KMOT for a couple years, and there were some people that taught me a lot of stuff to go next level on the marketing side and how to really be good at what you do. I mean, some people locally, Todd Talene was a sales guy there forever. Mm-hmm. Daryl Olson down in Bismarck. I mean, these guys, they knew what they were doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? But then on the corporate level, they KMOT Gray TV would bring in different these people that did marketing,
like training type things.
Yeah, like training seminars and all this sort of stuff. And on this branch that we're on here talking about that, I think one of them was that, for me, I would always, before I'd go talk to, Randy's Railroad Service or whatever, I would research the hell out of that before I got there. And then I'd go research his competitors. I'd go look and see what are other people in the market doing? What are people in other states doing? You know what I mean? Like, take 15 minutes to go on Google, and
it doesn't take that long.
It doesn't take that long just to generate some ideas. Like, we live in 2022, man. And in marketing and in business and marketing your own business, you're not going to create something from scratch anymore, man.
Correct.
Everything's
been done.
Yeah. You're going to reinvent the wheel in a sense of how did they do it? How do we make this spin better? Yeah. So you're just trying to grab an idea, know enough information. But one of the things that I found interesting in some of my time at KMOT is there was a training guy that had said that don't research before you go there, because the conversation like we're having right now might generate something different than what they're putting out onto their social media and things like that.
That makes sense.
It does make sense. I still would research. You know what I mean?
Or at least some base research. You can limit it down. You don't need to know, every single thing, but
at least have an idea.
Yeah.
To answer your initial question, I think the first thing that I would do I'm not going to come to Bennett Creative Media and try to sell you something unless I don't have an idea before I get here.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
You're just not going to go in there cold, be like, well, we could do this or you know what I mean? And that's one thing where have you seen that going in there with a lot of energy helps these conversations flow? Cause I used to go into these meetings and I would just have them talk, you know what I mean? Them talk and I'm just writing down, I'm like, okay, we can do whatever. But now if I go in with the energy, the confidence, and we should do this, and this, they seem much more inclined to give me more information back. You know what I mean? Have you found that out at all?
Doing sales for my whole professional life.
Yep.
What's interesting is that you got to gauge and read the room a little bit on what's what. I mean, if the guy that's coming out that's going to make this decision is the owner of this company and he's been around for many, many years and he's old and grumpy or something like that, and I come in like JoJo the idiot circus boy that's been drinking coffee all day, let me tell you about this. You know what I mean? That might not work. However, I think that anybody in business, if you've got an idea and you're passionate about your idea and you're passionate about the fact that at the end of the day, like
the idea is going to work. It just depends with who. That's my motto.
That's a great model. And that's the other thing where this idea, like you just said, will work. How do we make it work? How do we make it your own? And if you're passionate enough about that on the business end of it and on your own marketing end of it, not just talking about sales, but as a business person in your marketing world and you trying to gain traction in the marketplace as a marketer for whatever business you may own. If you've got a passion about what that idea is and you fine tune that, if you keep hammering on it and you work on it, it's either going to work or it's not.
Yeah.
And the ones that work are the ones that are fantastic, and they're the ones that will drive ROI for you. And then the ones that don't work, then
move to something else.
You're just, hey, then off you go.
Have you ever, so you've obviously been in sales your whole life. Have you found that you can't sell the unsellable? Have you ever ran into that? Or are you more of I just got to figure out how to get there?
You know, my honest answer, and there's people around you can ask around. One of the problems that I had in a corporate structure was that my mentality was that, okay, we need to sell XYZ because that's what we do here.
Yeah.
And my mentality was fly a kite. I'm not selling that shit to somebody because it's not going to work for them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's where, I go into video meetings all the time. And if I have a conversation with someone, and I'm not saying objections are bad, but if they're objection over objection, or they don't believe in video, or they don't believe in social media marketing, it's like, well, we can cut this conversation off here, because if you don't believe in it, I can do some convincing as to which direction we should go. But if you're anti everything, I can't sell you on something you don't believe.
That's another interesting topic. One of the things like in my business right now where, how hard do you want to go in trying to sell somebody something?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My mentality in sales,
because I don't want to feel bad after it. You know what I mean? I don't want to sell it and be like, they feel like they got ripped off, like I forced them into doing it. You know what I mean? That's the last thing I ever want.
I think in business, it doesn't matter if you're Bennett Creative Media or PSP Network or Jimmy John's. You know what I mean? Like I don't care who you are in business. My mentality would always be in sales, and even now, where we're going to sell this out. Somebody's going to buy it. If you don't want it, you're missing. That's
fine. But I'll go over to Joe Schmo across the road.
Yeah, I mean, you're missing out on this, and if you don't get caught up on this now, the digital ad world and what I'm able to provide you, like in this day and age, where, dude, we get done with a season, and I can go back to you and say, here's how many people watch this.
Yeah.
Here's the percentage that were men. Here's the percentage that were women. We have all the analytics of it. Here's where they're from. Here's how long they watched it. They watched it on their phone, their tablet, their computer. In this world that we live in marketing your business, like if you're not using those tools,
you have to be in front of eyeballs.
You have to be in front of eyeballs. And if you're not using those tools, you're missing the boat, because there's other people that are using those tools to perfection. And that's giving them a competitive edge in the marketplace, which is very, very interesting where this is going and how deep it goes. You know what I mean?
And that's where it's crazy to think about. You see all these new platforms that come out, and now there's podcasts. Obviously we're on a podcast right now, but there's podcasts. People are listening to marketing. Like this is technically, it's passive marketing for Bennett Creative Media and for PSP, but like it's also entertainment. So there's so many different platforms and routes you can go with marketing now that it's so interesting of how creative you can get with it.
How creative you can get. And that's where, to me, I think my biggest message on the marketing point of this conversation would be that, like, how are you going to stand out? How are you going to do it differently? And not only how are you going to stand out and or do it differently, how are you going to execute it on the back end after you do it?
Yeah.
Like when I used to sell TV advertising, there was times where people, hey man, we ran this commercial for 2 weeks and nobody's come through the door. Well, just so you know, man, I told you when I first came in here that you've got your hours wrong on your door. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that, like simple stuff
goofy things.
Yeah. Nobody came in because, you're a coffee shop and you had your doors.
They're putting the cart before the horse.
Supposed to be open at 7, and all of a sudden your employees are showing up at 9. Yeah. You missed the work rush, moron. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So,
yeah. Well, I only got a couple more questions here for you. What would be your biggest piece? And I know we've already given a lot of gold nuggets away here, but someone that's just starting a business, or, they've been in business for a while, they're trying to figure out how to take it to that next step. What would be your piece of advice for them, or a couple pieces pieces of advice.
Get consumed by it. Get consumed by every ounce of what you're doing. First of all, pick something that you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
For me, working in Bismarck as a 18-year-old kid with the dream of being a pro hockey play-by-play guy, right?
Yep.
I had buddies that were, they're going to play golf and going to do this and that and all this stuff. I mean, I'm just a kid at this time, right?
Yep.
I spent at least a minimum of 2 hours in that office every week by myself because there was internet there and there wasn't internet at the apartment that I lived in because I was just a poor kid making peanuts.
Like, can I put my mattress in this apartment in this office?
That's exactly right. And I would sit there and I would listen to, I would go on this website was called Sports Juice. And it was the old platform where that was like the home for listening to hockey games online. And I would pick, it'd be the Red Deer Rebels were playing somebody up in the Western Hockey League. And I would listen to that broadcast from start to finish. And I would sit there and I would take notes. And I would just be consumed
on how they were doing it.
Okay. And just being
interesting.
Completely, like I really like the way that guy said this, or I really like the way that guy led into this with this, or, I don't have to give the goalie matchup and their stats before the puck drop. That can happen after. Wow. And the way that he tied all that in together was really good. I mean, those are the things for me where now, even almost 20 years later, I'm doing the same thing, man.
Yeah.
I'm watching games, whether it's NHL stuff or American League stuff, following Mason Morelli, I mean, I sit down and when I listen, I'm listening with a purpose. I'm listening to
hear how they do it.
I want to be better.
You can learn something from everyone. I think the last podcast last week, Jonah was touching on that, is you can learn something from every single person you meet. And it's the same way through, obviously in your case, play-by-play announcers, but just pick up something from everybody.
1,000%. Pick and don't just stop there within the industry that you're in. For me, that's the other thing. If it's not listening to games, or like right now we're in dirt track racing, right? I just got done on a 5-night tour across Western North Dakota announcing dirt track. Mm-hmm. Dude, I'm listening to dirt track guys all winter long on watching every highlight that I can find on how they do it. Where they influx the voice. How do they say it? What are they saying? Mm-hmm. Do I want to rip this guy off completely? No, I don't want to rip him off completely, but where can I get creative?
Take a couple things from him.
How can I go there? And the other part of it is that on the back end, so whatever your craft is, if it's making sub sandwiches, you know what I mean? Yep. Like, I don't know how many YouTube tutorials you can watch on that, but it's also,
how should I fold this turkey?
That's exactly right. How
do I spread the lettuce?
Spread it out. You got to get it nice and I could teach you how to do that too. Cause look at me. I obviously know how to make a sub sandwich, but the other thing is just on the back end stuff of, podcast of business and, Tony Robbins and things like that. I mean, I'm listening to that stuff all the time, just trying to
consuming things,
consume it and gain an edge. One of the best things that I've ever, like my motto in life these days, which I think is just righteous, is I'm listening to Joe Rogan and Kevin Hart, the comedian. You know who Kevin Hart is?
Yep.
And Joe Rogan's like, dude, where do you get the energy for this? And he's like, Joe, I just go, and he's like, no, but seriously, like you're always going. And Kevin Hart gets all serious and he's just like, Joe, there's 2 types of people in this world. And hunters hunt is what he said. And basically saying
that's awesome.
There's the people that go after it and then there's people that don't. Mm-hmm. And either you're driven to go hunt or you're just going to gather off other people or whatever is basically what he's saying. Like hunters hunt, man. Like you got to hunt. And if you want to, like the way I view PSP Network and what we're doing now is that we're going to try to continue to promote high school kids and
that was my next question. What's the North Star? Where do we go?
Yeah. I mean, good segue. I mean, for me, I'm going to continue to hunt. I only have dude, I can't do this forever, where I'm gone 200 nights a year in the winter and then gone another 60 in the summer. I mean, that's a lot of time away from a family. And that's a challenge in itself. Props to my wife for doing what she does. You know what I mean? But to be able to grind that way and to be able to go at that pace isn't a reality for me forever. So it's also, the North Star is to build this up and to have enough of a concrete footing where we continue to thrive in excelling in our mission of promoting these high school athletes and other sporting competition, continue to find easier ways for you to get the game on your phone or watch replays and apps and all that sort of stuff. But also to be able, as a business person, to be able to take a step back, release
work on the business instead of in it.
Correct. Release some of that control to other people, get the right people hired in place where now we've got a bunch of broadcasters. How do we get this thing built where I'm able to sit in an office, do what I'm best at, and that's announce hockey, and, do sales and make some of the business decisions, but also have these people in place to come along and to help with our marketing and to help with announcing other games and things like that, to grow this in a way where, look, it's this beautiful avenue for high school kids to perform on.
Oh yeah.
And then to make it so I'm not working 120 hours a week during sports season. And then, either get to the point where, it gets gobbled up by something bigger that continues to, promote our message and our mission. Or, I've got kids too, maybe they'll be into what we're doing.
Announce their sports one day.
Yeah. That's the North Star. Go. I don't know if I can announce my kids' sports. I'll be losing my mind.
Screaming. You'd be fired so quickly.
It's a cross check.
Yeah.
Part.
But yeah, that's all I got for you. Nick, thanks again for coming on. Awesome conversation. I know we could ramble on for like 3 hours, but we're going to keep it semi-digestible for the people. But we'll have to have you on again sometime. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm proud of you. This is awesome, and thanks for letting me be here. I'd like to challenge you to golf one day so I can.
I appreciate it. I'll take you up on that offer. My first couple rounds of the year not very good, so we'll see how it goes. But Nick, where can people find you on the interweb before we head out of here?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. On a personal note, I mean, if it's business stuff, I certainly am willing to be there. PSP Network 1 at Outlook is my email. 701-833-1007 if you'd like to reach out. Any business conversations open to me. I'm always good for that stuff. Would love to I just love talking about
Perfect.
it. And then psp.network is the landing page for where you can watch high school sports and find us as well.
That's what I was looking for. So yeah, if you guys are looking to find any high school sports, in the Minot Bismarck area, psp.network, that's what it is.
psp.network.
Perfect. Cool. Awesome. Nick, thanks again for coming on. And thank you guys for watching episode 5 of the Minot Business Podcast. We will see you guys next Wednesday for episode 6.